Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. My name is Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, well, we have a sponsor. Who's that? Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help you maximize your use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Now, my guest for today, so excited to introduce her to you. We've worked together for many a moon, and she is awesome, and she has so much wisdom to share. She probably knows more about Pardot than I do at this point. Amazing. She is actually Certified Pardot Consultant, not the specialist. If you're a specialist, one day you'll become a consultant, but she is certified up the wazoo with Pardot. She knows it. She's a power user. She's also, here at Cheshire, she's the Director of Professional Services. The poobah, the one that helps make sure everyone's having success. It's amazing. She is a great manager, mother, and an all-around badass. Introducing Grayson Daniels. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I think that's the first time I've been called a badass, so I'll take it.
You are a badass. So badass. Well, let me remind people the theme of why we brought you. I'm sure your emails are piling up as we speak, but why we brought you in and just why I wanted people to hear and chat with you. The theme this month is along that CSI, that maturity model for marketing automation, right? We had people just going off and they buy a really expensive tool and use it to batch and blast. We're like, guys, what are you doing? Stop it. So we created this roadmap. And so all along this year, we've had things like getting to know your buyer, how to do good segmentation, nurture campaigns, and reporting, ROI, all sorts of good stuff. Aligning with sales. And these are all good things. We could chat about these too. But now we're getting toward the end, the final phase, the phase of optimization where you can really crank things up and have fun. And it's all about personalization and customizing that journey to the buyer, understanding more about it, and then also some of those advanced things. But come to find out, we got to make sure we have the basics done too. So, I just want to pass you Thor's hammer here. And are there any myths? Yes, receive the hammer.
Got it.
Are there any myths that you want to smash? Any boat? I'm sure you get a lot of this preconceptions that people have when they first come to start working with us. They thought the sky was yellow, and it's actually, no, it's blue. That dress is black and gold. It's not, you remember that thing from the old
Yeah,
days?
blue and white. Yeah, I don't remember.
Blue and,
blue and white or black and gold or.
Yeah, I saw like blue, I think. But yeah, so what do you want to smash? What are people thinking that we need to just set the record straight right off the bat?
Totally. When it comes to personalization and dynamic content, which is super important and a really cool thing to do, a lot of times though, people think that data doesn't matter, the data that you have, or like that the data is an afterthought, when in reality, it's probably one of the most important parts to this piece of our roadmap.
Data is an afterthought. So are they just skipping over it altogether?
Yeah, or just that we'll just take what we have and we'll just go with it. Nah, we don't have to spend time cleaning it up or making it nice and pretty or, or working with what we have. Typically I think a lot of times marketers will come into their company, if there's been a marketing team, maybe they're taking over a role, for example, and they'll just be like, all right, let's just work with what we have and let's move forward, where they won't take a step back necessarily and say let's see what we're working with. Let's see what we need to clean up. Let's just do what we have. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I think, their predecessors, the people before them, they maybe didn't take the time to do that as they went. And so it just the dirty data piles on and piles on, and then someone's just stuck with it. And so I think that can be a little bit overwhelming. And a lot of times marketers will just say, all right, well, that's someone else's mess, or let's just work with what we have just so we can do something,
Right. And just accept the fact that my deliverability is going to be 50%.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a scary thought. That's
it really is.
Sending your email. Yeah. I mean, bad emails, that's the biggest one. And that's honestly the easiest one to fix. And really,
Totally.
And that's the first one, I think, in my opinion, that you should fix your email addresses too. Because if you think about your email reputation, thinking about my personal reputation, I want my personal reputation to be good. So don't you want your email reputation and the way that you're representing your company and your brand to be really high and to be a really good reputation? Well, then let's start with that first piece and have a high deliverability rate. How do we do that? We have some really good clean email addresses to send to.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. I like that tie into we all want to have good personal reputations, right?
Yeah.
Honesty, integrity, I guess it's a synonym, but all the good things, right? We want all the
Yeah.
things that are good, not the negative. And that almost hurts us more than anything, right? It's just that personal hit of people, maybe you can't trust us, or that person's a liar, or, whatever the case may be. So we want that personal reputation. So carry forward that same thing into your marketing, and you want that email reputation to be good. Maybe you could just break it down. What is email reputation for people? Because I don't think a lot of people know. So maybe you could just what is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's like who you're sending to. Are you sending to good email addresses? So yes, if you're sending to good email addresses, your reputation is going to be higher. It's just how you come off as a marketing presence. Like when you send emails, are you sending good emails? Are you sending spammy emails? Are you sending to spammy email addresses? Are you batching and blasting? So it's just, what does your overall presence look like in the world of email?
Interesting.
How do you come off? So I think email address is a big one. And then of course, I think the content of your email too is the other piece of it. Of, email servers are finicky little buggers, and we really want to make sure that, we're getting through to them. Again, just like in a personal relationship, you want to get through to someone. So with your email servers, let's get through to them and get to our, recipients' inboxes. How are we going to do that? Let's send to real live email addresses that actually exist in the world. And let's send some really good content, and not just send one big image in an email, like a PDF image or something that's like, the flyer of your event, rather than having like actual text in your email.
Oh, geez. Yeah. So I'm writing that one down because we're going to have to come back and beat that one up. But before we do, on the email, I got to quote you on this. Email servers are finicky little buggers. I love that.
I know. I don't know where that came from. That I don't think I've ever used the word bugger.
That is like classic Grayson right there. I love that. I could see like a social image on Instagram being like finicky buggers like roaming around. It's like servers. So yeah, it's so true. I mean, they're out there and they don't just want to pass on spam, because then those servers get hit for having a bad reputation. So everyone's trying to protect themselves, CYA really. Yeah. And so when you send your emails out, even if you're not spamming, but they look like it or they act like it, in one of the best ways, to your point, you can act like you're a spam engine, is to have bullshit email addresses that don't work. And so when a server gets a whole bunch of requests and half of them don't work, it's like, okay, whoever this is, we're shutting them off, because they either have really bad data or they're just a scamster, from some random country trying to just, pull a fast one on us. So they shut you down, and then your deliverability tanks. Actually, I started working with a customer that came over from another tool. Let's see, that rhymes with fact Factmon.
Okay, yeah, Factmon. Yeah.
Factmon. And
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't, I'm bad at rhyming. I should get Lizzie in here, like, hey Lizzie, what rhymes with this word? So he came over from there and he was getting 50% deliverability, which I've never seen. I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
And what was crazy is this guy, he was like, look, I need help. We need to probably move over to Pardot. This deliverability is crazy. But he was starting to accept it, like take it from, well, this is what happens.
Yeah.
Like, no, dude, no.
This isn't okay.
People were talking about getting from 97 to 99% deliverability. That's where you should be playing, like not this 50%. But what was crazy is this guy was like a network engineer, and he was actually the guy they called on 9/11 to help restore communications at the Pentagon.
Wow.
And they're like, hey, we need to get our email back stat. And so they brought him in and he was helping repair this stuff. So this guy actually knew what was going on with whatever the other.
Yeah, Factmon.
I need better for I can't even make one up. It's like that early. You have the gigantic Starbucks. It's not helping.
Right.
By the time I get to the bottom, I'll have good creativity. But yeah, so he was really frustrated with them. And it was almost reminded me of like the old guy that like knows what's going on. And he's trying to tell people, but no one's really listening to him. So he was trying to tell this other company, look, the reason that your emails are suffering here is because, one, they were using Google Gmail to push everything, and they were pushing everything too fast through their servers. And so it was just rejecting stuff. And these were people he actually knew. So, and there were a lot of gov addresses and other things, but he actually knew these people one-to-one, and he was getting a 50% deliverability. So it was like, man, the platform was goofed up. It wasn't his email addresses, but the platform was. But man, deliverability is so important.
Yeah.
Message doesn't get through. You don't even have an at bat,
Right.
Like your game got rained out.
Yeah. I mean, that's number one. It's like, what's our purpose here? Our purpose is to market, to get content in front of people. Well, if we're not even getting it through those finicky mail servers, then what was all your hard work for,
Right.
So let's try to crush that and work through it.
So back to data. Tell me more about that. Like, have you had any goofy mishaps where people messed up your data?
I mean, I've just worked with so many clients that, in previous companies too, where I've worked that, make you sit back. And I'm such a data nerd. I really am. Like, I probably should have worn my glasses today so I could,
that'd be awesome.
up in the middle, because I'm such a data nerd.
We can wear our glasses next show.
Yeah, there we go. Next time. There you go.
Data nerd.
But I've worked with so many clients, and again, companies I've worked with before, that it's just like, let's take a step back and like, what's going on here, and why is this just a mess, or why are all your states spelled wrong, or why aren't your states like in the same format? Like, let's just make this clean. And I'm such a type A personality too, that I think that really goes along with that I'm like, hello, this is just driving me nuts, because I can't process things that aren't like clean and orderly. So.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
One of the kids got a magazine in the mail to help him read, and a big, probably size 18 font, it said scavenger hunt.
Oh gosh. I am the first person to pick out typos in books.
Yes.
It drives my husband crazy, because I'll be like, sitting there reading, at night or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I just found a typo. And he's like, man, you need to be an editor, like work for a publisher, be an editor.
Totally.
So.
Well, Tina found it, was like, this is outrageous. How could they be, this is for teach kids spelling and reading. And I was like, well, maybe he had a bad day, or she, and she's in size 18 font. And I was like, right there.
And there were multiple sets of eyes on that magazine too.
Yeah. If you read one sentence, it would be the big one, hopefully. And that was the one that was messed up.
That's funny.
Crazy. So, I've also had like them mix up. I don't know if they've ever mixed up like Grayson, but I've had like Casey as a girl. So like,
oh my gosh,
they're like, hey girl, like cool intro, but so they do that
all the time. I mean, if I get phone calls or, like regular snail mail, that's like the worst offenders of this, honestly, that says to Mr. Grayson Daniels, I'm like immediately in the trash. You don't know me, it's one of those, like, I get offended. I still get offended, and I've had my name, my whole dang life. But, it's one of those where it's like, just check your data, or just don't use it at all. And I know it's, especially with snail mail, it's a bunch of the batch and blast where they're not paying attention to that stuff. But let's really just like think about, what's the data we need to use and what's really the most relevant. And then if we want to use that piece, is it going to be accurate? We're not going to get it perfect every time, because, we're really working for progress, not perfection. But, we really want to just make progress and really think about it and step back. Because again, I'm tired of getting Mr. Grayson Daniels. So just send it to Grayson Daniels. I promise I won't be offended if you're not using the salutation.
Right. Well, you know what? This is 2018, I think. I'm getting old now, so I don't know. But 2018, if you're still using Mr. in your email salutation,
oh my gosh, I know.
You've missed the boat. Or you're one of those spammers from Africa saying that, dear Mr. Cheshire, we've come into lots of money. We want to send to you. Please give us your bank account.
Yeah, exactly.
And we will send you diamonds.
Right.
It's like, no one does that anymore.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Things are much more laid back these days. I mean, there's definitely the industries where you kind of have to be a little bit more buttoned up, but for sure, things are more laid back, where it's like, let's just use your first name, and then, we'll be good. You won't even have to deal with this issue. So,
that reminds me of another story. I don't know if who was this? There was someone sent us an email. I don't think maybe it was like a client before they worked with us or something, but people do this all the time in Salesforce. It said if someone didn't work there anymore, they would like do a middle name, or they would edit the first name to say doesn't work here anymore. So it was like, Casey doesn't work here anymore.
I know.
But so someone actually died, and so they wrote like, it was like John. They're like, John is dead, right?
Oh my
And
gosh.
then that's not the way to do it, folks, right? So
No.
you put unsubscribe button. That's one in Pardot. There's one in Salesforce. They can sync together. It's magical. Use that, right? And other people have deleted the email address. That's also horrible. Don't do these things. But they had written like "is dead" next to the person's name, and they sent out a mailer to his office. And it was like, kind of bad taste, guys. You know, people wrote back and were like, okay, so and so, like, this is horrible, right? And it was like massive foot and mouth. So like, don't do that.
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
don't mess with individual fields to add some other data to it. Use another one, you know?
Yeah, totally. Or just like simply add, and I don't know if it's something standard in, Salesforce, but something I've done in the past too, is we had a field like no longer at company. And then you check that box and then you make a suppression list, easy enough just to do something like that.
That's a good point. Even if you don't
CYA.
add it. Yeah. Like a little checkbox. It takes 5 minutes to do that. I mean, we have it. So we've had it for so long. I even take it for granted. I don't know if we put it there or it was there to begin with, but
I don't know.
Use it. Yeah. Yeah. So something like that to keep track of it. I've also gotten like Victoria's Secrets, like catalogs and all sorts of goofy things. And actually another time I was joining an implementation call, or it was a sales training, and everyone was disappointed. Oh no, it wasn't that. It was many moons ago when I was a trainer. I was going on site with some people, firefighters. They thought it was like, oh, we're gonna have this Casey girl come in and train us on.
No.
So I show up like, hey guys, they're like, oh man.
Yep, I've had that too, where I've gotten on client calls, and I don't really work with a lot of clients anymore, but I had that a lot where I would get on client calls and they're like, I'm like, hey, this is Grayson at Cheshire Impact. And they're like, whoa, what? We were kind of expecting a male voice. And I said, yeah, I get that all the time. Just go into it without any of these expectations and then you'll be fine.
Yeah. So on that note, if you like, it's that hard to do it even knowing the name or having met the person. So don't try to take leaps and bounds with your data, right? Keep it simple, and then you can miss less.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
So data ties into reporting. I guess garbage in, garbage out. What do you see in that regard? And
yeah, I mean, I think with that, it's just, again, data nerd here, reports.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Nerd out.
I love building reports, all of that. But it's, if you have funky, weird, old data, whenever you run your reports on, how many people are we sending to, or like building lists in a way of like segmentation of, who are we working with in this region or in this territory, and we don't have the right data, or we have funky data. It's just your reports, your data is not going to be accurate. Your reporting is not going to be accurate. So you're not going to be able to make good plans for your next quarter or to put plans in place for the next year or anything like that. So it's tough. So again, it comes back to, if you want your reports to be accurate and you're reporting to your executives, let's make sure that we have some really good stuff to work from so that we can make accurate plans moving forward.
Interesting. Yeah. We'll have to talk more about this, and even just like maybe adding it to the CSI, but you wrote a blog post about, was it prepping data or how to clean
some simple tips to clean your data. Yeah. Cause it's a big task.
Yeah. Preach on, because
let's talk about it. Yeah. So one of them goes back to my first one. My first point I made a little bit earlier was start with your email addresses. That's honestly like the biggest and the easiest thing to start with, because it's the most obvious, like, okay, we're going to email. Right. All right, well, let's clean up our emails, because what you don't want to do is have this, your database of 50,000 prospects, and, with email addresses, and then you go and fix other pieces of data, and then you go and send them an email, and then you realize half of them aren't even good emails. Again, you're going to affect your deliverability rate. Totally. But then you also wasted time by fixing data on these people that may not even exist. So let's start with your emails, clean those, you know what I mean? It's just wasted time. It's just, hey, let's be more efficient at this. Let's figure out, let's just be the most productive we can be and be the be, efficient. So let's start with emails, get
Right.
the dead ones, the dead emails out of the way, the dirty ones, the ones that don't exist. And then we can take the next steps on cleaning our data on the ones that we're actually going to send to. So the ones that we can focus on. Yeah.
I could imagine you could waste so many cycles cleaning data that you're never going to actually action on.
Exactly. Yeah. And so let's start with that. Again, at the end of the day, we're sending an email. So let's clean our emails and then we can move on from there.
Yes.
So
okay, cool.
Lots of cool email tools that you can use, to cleanse your list that will kind of, give you good reports back of, oh, these are valid or these aren't valid. And then let's just use that. And that's really going to be one of the easiest things you can do to start, making strides in your data cleanup.
Okay.
Next.
Sweet. Yes.
My next one is to start small. Once you've done your emails, let's start small. So this kind of comes back to, I think I mentioned this earlier. And this is one of those tedious tasks, but it does make a difference, is to do the like country state fields. Those are the ones that I've done so many projects for clients that are like, especially when you're working with tools that work together, like Salesforce and Pardot, for instance. The way you can set them up is like Salesforce reads state codes, whereas you might be capturing the full state name in Pardot or on your forms. And then you're having so much like conflicting data and things aren't going to sync properly. And it's just going to be like ugly and messy and everything's just going to fall apart. So we want to get everything. Right? Yeah.
We see that if you're asked to stay in the one system was like New Hampshire and the other one's like, we're looking for NH. What's this New Hampshire? And then like they don't even talk and they maybe don't even get the data.
Yeah, exactly. They just sit in this like queue of like, we're confused. We don't know what to do. So that it just like, it just stops. Yeah, the confused queue. So that's one of those things. And again, I preface this by saying it's a tedious task. And I think in my blog post, I even said this type of work is best done with a cup of coffee and your favorite Spotify playlist because, and I've done this a lot with clients. I mean, it's annoying. Like I'm going to be candid. It's annoying, but it's honestly really, really helpful. And just to sit, this is like Excel work 101, where it's like, take your South Carolinas and change the first one to SC and then drag it all the way down to update all the rest of them to SC, re-import it, and then you're good to go. So it's not hard work, but it's tedious work. You know what I mean?
You got to get it done.
Yeah. But that's one of those things where it's, I say start small because it's easy, but it makes a difference. It's like, my husband and I did this debt snowball thing to like pay off my student loans. Dave Ramsey, one of my faves. And he said, start with your smallest balance. Yeah. Because then as you start to pay it off, like you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Because you're starting to see your numbers, like, the amount you owe. Totally. Get less and less, like to start with the smallest balance. So that kind of reigns true for that. It's like start small and do those easy, tedious things, because then once you're done, you're like, oh my gosh, I made so much progress. And it just feels like it's more easily digestible.
That's so cool. So many people push back on Dave. They're like, well, my interest rate on this one is 9.7 and this one is like 8.2. So doing the math, I actually say, and he's like, dude, it's not even about that. It's about behavior change, which is being excited to having this done.
Yeah. There's so much of that like mental, like in your brain where it just like it resonates with you so much more when you're like, oh my gosh, I paid off this $500 loan. I have so much to go, but like I did that, and now I can move on to the $2,000 loan and then I can move on to the $5,000 loan. It's really cool. So it's like the data snowball.
The data snowball. I like that. So start small, data snowball. Do you eventually go back and, is this something where you can go back and fix it so that Pardot's thinking the right codes so that you don't have to manually change it, or how does that work out?
Well, I think moving forward, it's like acquire the most relevant data and then acquire the right data to begin with. So like you're dealing with, so this is like historical data.
Okay. This is like the cleanup.
This is the cleanup. And then moving forward, kind of going back some steps with like progressive profiling, things like that. It's like, and this is another one of my points, is use the least amount of text fields possible, because with text fields, you're just going to have, well, I can't even imagine. Like if I just sat here and typed with my eyes closed, I would probably try to type like the banana is yellow and I'd type something that looks like it's green, like that's just, you're setting up for human error, which there's a lot of human error, especially since we all have 5 million things going on per day. We can't really focus very well on one thing, even if it's just like typing South Carolina into a text box.
Oh geez.
So like, so let's acquire like the most accurate data as much as possible. So let's just make it a pick list. Let's make it a drop down with the state code. There you go. Done. Moving forward, so it's like, let's clean up what we have now. And then moving forward, this won't be an issue because we're taking the right steps to actually, fix it.
Right. And as you're cleaning up, you're probably noting the things that are the most tedious. You're like, wow, okay, I'm cleaning this up. We just spent like 8 minutes doing South Carolina. So let's go ahead and make that change.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now you're able to see the different matches and not matches. Okay, cool. And the least amount of text fields possible. That makes sense. Spelling is not everyone's strong point.
Yeah. I mean,
and
again, that's just another one too, where it's like, let's just give them, the least amount of room for human error. And then also just the least amount of choices. Like, let's make it easy for people and make it simple so that when we're putting together our campaigns, we're working with just a little bit of data rather than 500 choices of things to work on.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. So we're cleaning up. We started with email. We started small. Is there a next step to that?
The least amount of text fields was the next one.
Oh, yep. I wrote that down. I didn't put a star next to it. Okay.
Third point. And then I guess just moving forward is just like acquire the right, learn from what you've done and then take the next steps to make sure that you're set up for success in the future.
Right. So you don't have to come back and do a cleanup every time. That makes
exactly.
sense.
I know it's one of those overwhelming like projects. And again, the more people you have in your database, it's a bigger elephant to work with, right. But again, let's take it one bite at it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
That's true.
So, just start small and then work your way up. And then we won't even have an elephant in the room because our data is going to be awesome moving forward.
That's really cool. It does have me wondering though. I wonder if people do eat elephant,
I don't know. I hope not. Cause they're so cute,
Okay. So I Googled it, but of course it has like nothing but that quote over and over and over again. Cool.
So maybe no, they don't eat an elephant, which I feel better about. Like, don't eat Dumbo. Come on.
I'm typing in elephant meat. I don't know if I should Google this or not. Let's see here. What does elephant taste like? Okay. So something for another time.
I think someone's going to check your search history and then come like arrest you.
I don't think it's illegal. These are the kind of things you're like, can you eat penguin? Like, I don't know. They're cute. But
right.
Good. But okay, this is great. So start with email, start small, least amount of text fields, and then learn from what you've done. And that's how you clean your data.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Again, big job, but if you just take it bit by bit, it's
yes, elephant.
It's one of the most, I think, effective ways to really just like be successful in marketing, is just like, let's have really good, clean data. And again, I think I mentioned earlier, progress, not perfection. We're not going for perfection on day one. We're just going for progress. And let's just, I'm not expecting anyone I work with or any company to have their entire database cleaned up in a week, but let's just do it. Just make little steps of progress forward every day.
Do make progress. Don't just sit there and blast your email out to the wrong list, because then people will actually come and get you. And like, I know Pardot really wants to maintain its IP addresses. I remember working with one time, and a client came over and they did a lot of work with religious leaders who are, I didn't realize this, almost constantly changing their church and the location as they move from place to place to place. And so their emails change a lot. And so when they did their first email send, they hadn't done this, and they had a lot of bounces, and they had not a lot of spam reports. It's just people weren't there anymore. And sure enough, Pardot reached out and said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And we looked at it with them and realized, man, they hadn't really looked at this stuff in a long time. So
yeah. Well, I mean, even too, like generationally speaking, so many people, millennials, you know, whatever you want to say, like change jobs, you know, it's obvious. Everyone knows that. It's like they change jobs more often than people who are older. And so if we don't try to keep that clean, because we know people are getting new jobs every few years or whatever the cycle is, you know, we're going to end up with John Smith at, you know, all of his old companies, and then we're going to get, you know, bounces back from them. So let's try to stay with the times and keep up with it.
Right. Interesting. You know, I was wondering even if data, I mean, it makes so much sense. I think right now we kind of cover that when we talk about knowing your buyer and personas, but I almost wonder if it should be its own step in the CSI, you know?
I mean, to me, it's important enough, you know, and I've run into so many issues that, you know, why not? Again, it's one of those, I think it'd be interesting to see where it's put on the roadmap for sure, because I think people are, you know, would be scared to think about it at the beginning. But I think it's important enough for it to be called out, you know, for it to really be like, you're doing all this great stuff to really mature your use of marketing automation. But even if we do all this good stuff, if we're still sending to the wrong people, or if we still have bad data, what is it all for? You know, so it's interesting, you know, good conversation for sure.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, even like in the foundation phase, like toward the beginning, maybe where social is right now, you know, it's like just a solid data. Like, have you checked? Do you know if it's clean? Have you used tools for that too? And have you fixed it? Have you looked at, you know, clean data coming in and that kind of stuff?
Or even if it's just kind of like an umbrella over each, you know, each phase too. It's like, in this section, let's focus on this. And then we can kind of like, you mature your data along the way.
Oh, see now you're talking, there could be a whole CSI just on data alone, you know?
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it powers everything. And it's kind of like a go-between too. It's not just in Salesforce or Pardot. It's in everything. So,
everything. Yeah, for sure.
Well, this is cool. This is really cool. I got a question. We've been working together for a while, but who are you? Where did you come from? Like,
what do you mean? We've worked together for 3 years and you don't know who I am?
No, I know you. But like before here, and people always are really fascinated, and we've gotten feedback saying, you know, we love learning from people, but then what's really interesting is like where they came from. Did you always know you wanted to do marketing? You know, how did this all evolve for you? So basically summarize your life in, you know, 2 minutes essentially.
Okay, perfect. Great. So I went to University of South Carolina for college. Go Gamecocks. Yep. They're not doing so well in football this year, but that's all right. So went to University of South Carolina. I double majored in marketing and management with a focus on entrepreneurship. Yeah. And so I knew marketing was always what I wanted to do, but it's interesting because I didn't take one digital marketing class. Like the marketing that I took was the very traditional, like focus groups and, you know, the pricing classes of like, why this box of Cheez-Its is on this shelf in the grocery store and why is it priced at $3.50? You know, it's like the very traditional marketing, like what does the color red mean versus the color blue in the use of logos and all that stuff, which was still really cool. I mean, I loved it. And I knew that marketing was what I wanted to do, but digital marketing wasn't even in my, you know, like, what is that? That wasn't even a thing. I mean, I think that was kind of still the beginning stages of like digital marketing really becoming a thing. So I'd honestly be really curious, like if I went back to, not that I'm going back to school, but if I went to visit school, like if they're offering classes like that now. But anyway, so moved to Atlanta after school. I worked at a large commercial real estate software company in Atlanta on their marketing team. And that's where I got introduced to Pardot, or they used Pardot. And so I started using Pardot, really fell in love with marketing automation. I was like, this is cool. That's where I learned Salesforce. That's where I started like building reports and like becoming the data nerd that I am. Then I can't miss this. My husband works for Pardot Salesforce. So like there was that, you know, of like, oh, let's just talk Pardot. Let's talk marketing, you know, all of that. Yeah. So that's still our, you know, dinner time conversation to this day. It's the things we geek out about all the time. But, so was on the marketing team there for a while. And then I was like, I just love this Pardot thing. I really want to do this more. Like I really want to focus and like teach clients about it, how to use it. So, that's when I met you at Dreamforce.
What? Yeah,
Yeah.
which Dreamforce was that?
Which one?
Yeah. I know this is like
2015.
dating ourselves. So like,
Yeah,
what
it was
was that?
2015. Yeah, it was
Was it?
3 years
Okay.
ago. Yeah, so we met at Dreamforce, heard about Chesh, and was like, this is so cool. You know,
Totally.
I can teach people how to use Pardot, and I can just talk about it all day, every day.
Right.
So yeah, I met you, and I was like, hey, this guy's pretty cool, and he's got a lot of cool
Let's
stuff going
hang
on.
out.
So let's
Help
do
people
this
out.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm really interested because I didn't go to school for marketing, or entrepreneurship for that matter. I was like computer science and some
Mm,
communications too. Um, so, those classes you took, what kind of lessons do you think, like looking back now, because you didn't do any of the digital marketing until you did it yourself, like, in the field,
yeah.
have there been some lessons you've drawn on from school, from maybe the theory you learned or any of those classes that applies to now?
Oh gosh, that's that
I
it
know it's
just
kind of a
seems,
crazy
yeah, it
question
seems like, well, it
throw
just
at
seems
you.
like so long ago. You know, I'm
True.
one of those people where it's like I memorized the things for the test, and then I was like, okay, now it's out of my brain.
Me too.
Like my brain only has so much capacity. But I mean, I think just a lot of like how people think, what matters to
Mm,
people, and just thinking about that concept of like, why does the color red speak to someone? That can kind of be
right.
translated into the work we do today of like what kind of content matters to someone, and really like
Yeah.
being along on the buyer's journey. So you're along the buyer's journey of like buying a certain dish soap, or whatever, like
Right.
consumer marketing, but then you can really translate that to like B2B marketing of the buyer's journey of, what type of software are we going to purchase, and it's really kind of the same stages, honestly. It just looks a little bit differently at the end of the day. So I think a lot of that, that I learned in school is still relevant to what I do now, for sure.
That's interesting. There's a guy named Dan Sullivan who likes to say that one of his one of his unique abilities is he likes thinking about his thinking on things.
Mm,
Just why is this the case? And it sounds like there was really a lot of emphasis on that in school, and not only the buyer's journey, but also thinking about people and why they make decisions and choices.
mm-hmm.
And what's crazy to me, having not gone that path, is that I almost get the sense that we don't really do that out here. Like out in the biz world, we skip over data, and we
Yeah.
also skip over understanding our buyers because it's scary. We
Right.
take our cues from sales on it, and then build some campaigns out, but really we should be interviewing buyers, finding out who they are, taking them out
Yeah.
to dinner, really get into their heads, and then apply some of the lessons you've learned in school
Yeah.
around just how do we address them and how do we put them first. And to your point, all the content, all the different things we do should really revolve around them more than it should revolve around ourselves. That's really
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
yeah, if you think about it, everyone wants to be known. Like everyone wants to feel known,
Yeah.
like that. Even just at the core of, that's just the core of humans, is like we want to have relationships with people. We want to feel known. And so that still rings true with something as, simple or whatever as like buying software. I still want to feel known, and I want someone to know who I am and what types of things I'm looking for.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a by the way, I keep saying interesting. I'm sorry, everyone, but this is really interesting. I need like a synonym for that. Um, Everyone wants to be known, and that's I almost said it. That's the I word. I almost said it again.
It's your
So,
buzzword for the day.
oh man, I need a different buzzword. Come on, Starbucks, help me out. So I think, yeah. So I'm like paralyzed by not saying the I word.
I
Everyone
know,
wants
it's
to
all
be known. We talk about knowing the buyer, but how often have we talked about letting the buyer know we know them?
right.
Everyone wants to be known. Maybe we know them, but we're not letting on to it. We've done the research. We know what they want. We know the content they want. And so maybe we sort of passively are providing them the best content. But what a cool idea to actually tell them, hey, I know you. And I think sometimes we do that even here at Chess when we talk to people in sales. We're like, we're marketers. We know we've been there. We
Yeah.
know you're under the gun to get leads. So we're here to help you. We know you, and we know the pushback you get from the senior level. We know the budgetary concerns. We know this, and that's like taking it a step further, not just doing the research and knowing your customer, but letting them know you've done that work.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a thing called the Challenger sale. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I don't think so.
It's a sales strategy, and there's a book called the Challenger sale. And we do a lot of that here. And I found out I was actually doing that in sales accidentally, automatically, which was when the customer or the prospect first comes to you, instead of asking them, which a lot of other software companies will do, they'll say, "What are your problems? Tell me your problems," because they have no idea and they want you to tell them so they can sell you something specific to the thing. But
Right.
we'll say, look, what we've heard from people often is, let's say in our situation, "Hey, I love Pardot, but I want to get more out of it," or "I don't have the time to do it," or "My team is really busy and we wish we had like 9 other arms to help out," or "I know where I want to go with strategy. I just don't know how to make it happen. Like what's the best way to do it?" Have you had those thoughts, And people are like, "Yeah, like I had 1, 3, and 7, those were the ones I had." And so it's the idea of, instead of waiting and listening, you're saying, "Look, we've worked with 2,000 plus marketers. We know you," and actually telling them, that they're known.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's like beating them to the punch, like
Yeah, totally. So crazy. So what are you doing now? You've got a brand new family. How's that going?
Yep, it's great. I have an almost 9-month-old. He'll be 9 months soon, which is just wild. The fastest 9 months of my life, I feel like.
By the way, you look like you've slept a lot, which I think I don't even remember the first year.
The first month or so was really, it was a lot of like, I don't even know what's going on in life. Like what day of the week is it? I don't even know what time it is. I'm looking at a clock and I still don't know what time it is. But yeah, we worked really hard, honestly, at getting him to sleep quick. And so he's been sleeping 12 hours since he was 10 weeks old, which is awesome. I mean, we've had hiccups here and there, but we worked hard for it, but it's paid off a lot, a lot of dividends going on there. So yeah, I mean, 9 months old and sleeping like a rock. So
like you said, 12 hours?
12 hours. Yeah. 7 to 7.
Awesome. That means you get to sleep.
I know. So we get like a couple hours at night just to hang out and like, watch our TV shows and stuff.
Unwind and all that.
Sleep and feel rested in the morning and ready to, take on another day. So yeah.
That is awesome.
It's awesome. I mean, seriously. It's so good.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I hate you. Like I'm up every 3 hours."
I know. Always happy to share, what we did, share that advice for sure. But
we'll give out your information at the end, and they can, ask for Pardot tips or baby tips.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm an open book. Happy to talk about whatever.
Awesome. And so you have a big trip coming up too?
We do. Yeah. We, next May, the beginning of May. So our anniversary is in May. So we always try to plan a trip around them. We're taking 13 days away from the baby, which he'll be, 16 months or something like that.
That's good. Good timing.
It'll be a good time, for us to leave, but still it will be gone for almost 2 weeks, which I'm a little bit nervous about that, but he'll survive and we'll survive. Anyways, we're going to go to France, and then we're going to take a few days in London as well. So we're pumped.
So cool. Are you going to do the channel?
We're going to do the channel. Yeah. I'm so stoked. At first, we started looking at it, and we were like, okay, we'll just fly. And then the more I thought about it and like kind of crowdsourced some ideas and stuff, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like then we have to get to the airport and go through security, and then we have to fly, and then we have to get to the other airport, and the airports are, like outside the city.
Right.
And so someone was like, I think it's $200 or something for a round trip, just to take the train. And then we get to go under the water. I mean, that's going to be cool. It's going to trip my husband out because, he gets like his equilibrium thrown off with like and things like that. But I'm like, let's go underwater. So it'll be fun.
Man. Yeah, we're going to quick too, I think, right?
I think someone told me the underwater part's only like 20 minutes or something. So that's not, I mean,
that's super quick. I mean, I knew it was high speed, but that's
not
bad. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. I was
like,
it up. Take some Dramamine or something and you'll be fine.
buy him a drink on the way over.
Exactly.
Here, sit down. You'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that's awesome. So France and a little bit of London.
Yeah, so we're big wine fans. We've been out to Napa a handful of times and love that. Wow. So we're gonna take a few days out in the Burgundy region. And we're going to do, you can get they have like a bike trail out there, and we're not like crazy bikers. It's more like leisurely, but you can like bike from vineyard to vineyard. So we're going to do that for a day or something. And so we're pumped about that to, you know, check out the French wine scene.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that, you know, the typical Paris stuff. Fun fact about us is we're big Harry Potter nerds.
Yeah.
Love us some Harry Potter. So when we're in London, we're going to do a day out to the Warner Brothers studios where they have all the sets and like all the sets from the movies and things like that. So that's probably like one
set.
Yeah, the actual set.
Like oh wow!
Like you can go into the big dining hall, you know, where they do all their meals and stuff. They have that there. They have like the Forbidden Forest pieces of that you can walk through. I know.
That is really cool. What house would you be in, you think?
I mean, I'd like to think I'd be in Gryffindor, you know, like hang out with Hermione, and
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I mean, I don't want to be in Slytherin because, like, no, 0%. I don't think that's my personality at all.
You would be a great wizard. Wizard dress.
Right. And then the other two, you know, it's just they're kind of just like by the wayside. Like no one really cares that much about Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. So I don't know.
No offense, Hufflepuff.
I know some crazy Harry Potter fan is going to be listening to this, and they're going to reach out to me and be like, let's have a debate about this. But
or maybe we'll challenge you to a Quidditch match.
Right, exactly. Maybe we can play Quidditch while we're out there. I don't know. Maybe they have a simulation or something. That'd be sweet. That
would be really cool. Maybe on the main event we can get a little Quidditch match together.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll be the golden snitch.
That's awesome. Catch Grayson. Catch her. Catch her. Like running around.
Right.
Dressed in like gold tinfoil.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so cool though if like you made or something and like you hit it around the main event, like around where you were, and whoever found it like got to win the prize or something. And there were clues of where it was hidden. Oh, that'd be so cool.
And I could.
That goes back to your scavenger hunt.
Yeah, this is the scavenger hunt. The savage scavenger hunt.
Right.
Or you could like get a pig or a chicken and dress it in gold, and that could be this thing that's running around, like no one can catch it, you know.
I mean, I don't know where you are that there's a pig or a chicken available for that to be done, but
there's pigs and chickens everywhere.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
They're in our local supermarket, so
right.
I'm sure we can find them.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, Burgundy, drinking wine. You gotta get that classic shot of like biking through with a basket with like a fresh baguette sticking off the side and a bottle, you know.
The little beret, like we got to get a little beret.
Yes, hello. That would be awesome. What a cool trip. Hey, when you're in London, or if you're swinging through London, there's a really cool place off of Fleet Street, down looks like it's an alley, but it's like right to the left on Fleet Street, and it's Ye Old Cheshire Cheese Pub. That's what it's called.
Oh, nice.
And it is like throwback to Charles Dickens. In fact, Charles Dickens, this was his favorite place, and they still have his seat where he sat, and he wrote some of his books in this seat. And the floors are covered with sawdust like they were in the old days. And every different room has a wood-burning fireplace that's burning wood.
Oh, nice.
And so it's like, it's legit, and you can get a like old beer where they pump it out of a cask as opposed to, you know, like on tap.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It's like a throwback, and you can sit in his seat. And
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I got to add that to my little, my Google Sheet itinerary that I'm working on.
Really cool. You can just get like a pint while you're in there. It's really cool.
For sure.
They have really good food too, but just swing by, get a pint in there, and you could try this when you're in there. I mean, bring a business card with you. But I was like, hey, my last name is Cheshire. Does that get me like free food or whatever? And he's like, no, like American. But then he brought me a free pint, so I was like,
oh.
You guys are the best.
We won't give you free food, but we'll give you free beer.
Yeah. I was like, that's even better. I should have asked for that first.
Right.
So cool. Buku pictures. You're going to have to take like a bunch of pictures. And,
for sure.
Yeah. Especially the set. I didn't realize you could be in the set.
I know. I mean, we're going to be, total just fangirling out for sure when we're there.
You and Drew are going to fangirl out?
Yeah, totally. Both of us.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, totally. Well, sweet. Well, hey, what's a good place for people to connect with you? LinkedIn, is that the best, or what do you
Yeah,
recommend?
LinkedIn's the best for sure.
Okay.
I never really jumped on the Twitter train. I
No?
just have too many other distractions in my life that I was like, I just can't add another layer to it.
Yeah.
So for me personally, that just wasn't going to work out. I think it's great and it's a really cool way to connect for sure. And it's a great social media platform, but oh boy, if I added Twitter to the 700 other things that I'm doing
Yeah.
in my life, it was like, that's just not going to happen.
It's
I
a
also
great.
don't think I'm witty enough for Twitter. I really don't, like it's one of those,
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
the word wit is in Twitter. So,
I hadn't
I
thought
just,
of that.
yeah, I just don't think I'm witty enough. So I don't think I don't know. People would probably be bored by me.
I'm pretty sure
But
most people aren't witty enough for Twitter or Instagram, but
yeah,
they're there anyways.
true. Good call. But yes, LinkedIn's the best way to connect with
LinkedIn.
me.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I'm on LinkedIn.
And yeah, it's just Grayson Daniels. And we'll put a link in the show notes too.
Sweet.
Sure. Well, I don't know if you looked at the clock, but like time is just like flown by
Flies
like a
by.
time warp. Well, I mean, that's what happens when you talk about Harry Potter for a little bit, just
I know. I mean, I could talk about Harry. Like, I could talk about data all day. I could talk about Harry Potter all day. I was
data.
just saying, honestly, that the weather. It's fall. It's October, so now it's like time to watch all the Harry Potter movies again. I don't know,
Really?
something about this time of year. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
we got to start from the beginning. It's time.
Especially if it's raining. It's like raining and a little muggly out.
Yeah,
Then
ugly.
you like that?
I don't know how well that worked out.
No. Right now, people are like, no. They're like, I'm deleting this podcast on my favorites right now.
Right.
That horrible pun.
It was a good attempt, but
Thank you. If you listen to that, you didn't get it, you should watch the movies and find out. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on here and talking about data and Hogwarts.
Of course, yeah, data and Hogwarts. That's my next blog post. Data and Hogwarts.
And the show title is going to end up being something around that too.
I love it.
Working magic with your data. Oh, snap.
There you go.
Well, thank you again. This has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And everyone else out there listening in, thanks for joining us. If you learned anything today, and I've got 2 pages worth filled out over here. If you've learned anything today, then share this with someone. Kind of pass it along so you can keep the magic rolling. Oh, magic.
Love it.
So yeah, share the magic with someone. But for everyone else there, we will catch you next time. This has been the Hardcore Marketing Show.